Alright, today we're having a look at Climb the Mountain by Sony1. Alright, so here we are in Climb the Mountain by Sony1, and saw this... I want to jump in it! That's a problem. I saw this on the subreddit, and it looked really neat, and I wanted to grab a look at it. I feel a little bit bad because I didn't get a chance to ask Rattle what their pronouns were, because the server's been a mess, and I really wanted to catch the level before the servers stop letting me look at things anymore. Last source of water before the top. Use fancy gloves to bring water to the summit. Oh my gosh, we gotta get a drop of water all the way up to the summit. That's gonna be hopefully not too long of a level, because that could be tricky. Oh my god, though. Like, I really like that we're carrying water. When you see an empty water bottle like this one, throw your water out to fill it up. Oh, well, fancy pants. All right, so we don't have to worry about, food. We don't have to worry about carrying one drop the entire way up, and I really appreciate that, because I feel like you could do a trickier, maybe that's 4 bubbles should have been locked in place. I feel like you could do a trickier level than maybe you intended. I love it. I don't love it. Well, I mean, I do love it, but okay. Where's the hurt box? Oh, wait, Disco, please. It is like 5 o'clock in the morning, which honestly is a bit of a late recording for me, but I love the colors here. I don't know why, but I really like that yellow background. You've got like a heck of a hurt box, mate. How do I get over you? Because the timing here. Okay, fine. Maybe I was just unlucky. This vessel's way too hot. Yo, like, that's a mood. That's a mood. I don't need heat. It is so hot here in Tokyo, like, you wouldn't even believe. Take some water with you. I really ought to be reading all of these, but there's only so much time. It didn't fill up. Oh, it did. Oh, that's neat. Oh, I like it. Okay. Now, are these gonna die? I mean, they're not gonna die, they're rocks, but you know what I mean. Like, oh, I could have just jumped the other way. Please, no, don't be silly. I mean, you can be silly. That's kind of your job, but don't be too silly. Like, they made a path for us. I'm digging everything about this. This is so cool, and I am here for it. This is the first new level that I've played in a while. That's been, oh fudge, that's the timer. Oh, the lag stop. Okay, look, when I get to the ground, we're gonna go back to the hub, and we're gonna talk about it there. We'll see you there. See yas. And we're back, and Climb the Mountain by Sony1, and I'd say it's a really solid green circle. I was super impressed with this level. I really enjoyed it. I do feel like it gets kicked around a little bit by the servers. That caused a couple of issues when I was playing it, but really nothing too significant, and the positives far outweigh any of the negatives that I ran into in the level. What we've got is, for the most part, what we saw in the first impression section. We've got set up with a story. There's like a festival of life that's going on the top of the mountain, and you've got to transport drops of water, like in a relay race, to get up to the top and to let this festival begin. And it's being attacked by monkeys, and like, okay, so the conceit of the level is that the monkeys are really thirsty because it's really hot, and I do feel kind of like there's an easy solution to that problem, which is just hook the monkeys up with some water so they don't have to steal it. But I do see how that would kind of throw a monkey wrench, so to speak, into our inciting incident in the level, so we'll let that aside for the moment. Now, one thing that really impressed me in the level is that it uses that Grabinator game mechanic, and it sticks with it throughout the level, and it does something relatively interesting with it. A lot of times when I see the Grabinators get used in levels, and they're really kind of lazy, that there's not like a lot that's done with them. You'll get a Gravinator, there'll be some blocks, and you know, throw the block into the switch, hit the switch 5 times, and then it'll open something up and you'll move along. And it's like, usually they're very limited, and they're kind of slow, and they're kind of boring as far as like a gameplay interactive element. And in here, that kind of transporting something that can be broken, so you do have to kind of be careful about the environment and how close you're getting to ceilings when there's overhangs, for example, or these monkeys that are dropping down off the winches, and they will slap together and like kill your little water bubble there, water drop, excuse me. And like, that was really, really neat. That was doing something that I don't often tend to see with Gravinator levels, to the extent that I even tend to see Gravinator levels, which is fairly limited in scope. It's not a power-up that gets a lot of sunlight, so to speak, in the community, and honestly, it's probably for the best. This is one of the best examples of it, but like, yeah, there's not a lot you can do with the Gravinators. So that bit was really, really cool, and I really loved it. I like the way that it adds a dimension of tension and risk to the level that's not directly affecting the player. Like, you can lose the water drop, and you know, basically you've got to backtrack back to get it. Sometimes, we'll talk about a little bit later, that can be a bit annoying to do, but so you want to be careful, but it's not necessarily going to kill you if you screw up. And I thought that was kind of interesting to have I guess a secondary failure state in the level, as opposed to just death, which is what we usually see. So that was really, really cool. I love the presentation of the level. I bang on about presentation all the time, and I always will. It's a big thing for me. But like, the character work in the level here is really great. You've got like all those monkeys, and they're moving around, and it's like very animated, and I love that. I feel like we don't see that very often, and when we do tend to see it, it's often in kind of like a single kind of story driver character who will set things up at the beginning, and maybe you'll see that character, you know, here and there throughout the level, but not really doing much. But the level itself tends to be fairly static, but here it does feel like there's a lot of movement in the level. Also with the crocodiles that are popping up, and there's only one that's actually, I think, hazardous to you, the first crocodile that you see, which I had a little bit of trouble like working the hurt box on that, like where it was actually going to hit me. You can get by that without dying, but I did struggle a little bit. But a lot of times you see those in the level that are just to give like a sense of movement, a sense of motion in the level, and I thought that was really, really cool. I love the lighting choices in the level, like that nice yellow light background. That it's the bunkum, like the Stitchem background, but like it looked really good here. It worked really well with the material choices in the level. And there's a couple parts like up on top of the mountain where you've got like these sunbeams that are coming through the clouds, and the clouds looked great. Love those clouds. I mean, it just chef's kiss for a presentation. The way that the water bottles are worked in the level is really, really cool. Like, all of that was great. I loved that. I love the King Monkey. King Monkey was so neat. About like 2/3 of the way through the level, King Monkey will come down and steal your water bottle, and you've got to kind of chase him through the level. And this was kind of neat. So you're going to be throwing boulders at King Monkey, and it's going to get him to go up higher into the level, and you've got to kind of platform around to get to that bit, and then you'll chase him further. But like, King Monkey's still dropping water down on you, and like, it can actually knock you. Like, that water is a physical object, and it can like knock you down from where you're trying to jump. So it's like an added hazard in the level that doesn't really register first time you see it, because it's like, oh, it's just water, like what's the big deal? And then it screws up your jump, and you land into spikes or lava. And like, I thought that was really cool. But the whole King Monkey sequence is really, really neat, and you get to the end of it, and you're gonna pick up this boulder, and King Monkey's like dancing around, and it just like, it looks cute and it looks cool. And now I feel like I don't want to say a lesser creator, but maybe a less confident creator would have crammed in a boss fight here. And Rital Sony 1 doesn't do that, and I think that's really the best choice, because this level is chunky. I played it a couple of times this morning, I played it a couple of times yesterday, and I think on my fastest playthrough it was about a 12-minute play. So like you're spending a lot of time platforming through this level, and it's pretty tricky platforming. To have like a big chunky boss fight on top of all that, and I think it would be a little bit too much. So instead, to have this kind of almost like a denouement instead of a climax, the climax is actually getting to that point, and then you throw the boulder and it like goes into a cutscene, knocks the monkey down, and knocks the bottle over, and it'll get struck by lightning because why not? And then the festival happens. Like that whole sequence is really nice. It's really well done, and I think that it really ties the experience of the level together. Like there's so much good in this level. Now I did mention that there are some issues as well. I do feel like some of these things are more server side, maybe like screwing around with the logic, because I didn't get them to, I wasn't able to replicate them. The big one that I ran into the first time that I played, and it might be something that you run into, so keep it in mind, that there were a couple of water bottles that, because you're going to be throwing the water drop at the water bottles, it's going to fill them up, and then they'll be dropping more water throughout. They'll just be constantly dropping water so that you can backtrack and get a drop. There you go. But some of them, they would drop the initial drops, but then when I went off screen and I had to come back to them because I'd lost my water drop, and they were no longer emitting the water drops for me to pick up, so I'd actually have to go all the way back to the previous water bottle, and basically like doubling the length of a section that you would need to do without screwing anything up, and it made for a much longer level. It took me that time, I think like 28 minutes to get through, because I had to like replay these segments, and they're big chunky segments. Thankfully, as I mentioned, I didn't run into that issue again, and the time that I ran into it was when the servers were really, really bad, so maybe that was like throwing off the logic a little bit. If you do have that issue in the level, I would honestly say it would be better off to just leave the level and restart, because it's gonna make it a more frustrating experience than it really deserves, you as a player or the level as a created thing, and to experience it a little bit closer to what Rital most likely had in mind, I think would be better. So like quitting out of the level, going back into it, and seeing if that helps things out a little bit. There's a couple of sections with rolling boulders. One, and I don't think this was a server issue, I think maybe this is just the timing of that hazard. The first time you encounter the rolling boulders, and like, it takes forever, and I tend to be a cautious player, probably overly cautious player, so I would always like wait in a safe spot until a boulder would pass so that I could drop out and like run along. But the amount of time like you actually have to wait if you do that, it's a while. Like you'll be sitting there for a while, and maybe that could have been sped up a little bit. There is a second section later on in the level with boulders where there's a little bit less of a gap, and like the boulders are coming through a little bit more frequently. But something interesting happened when I got to that section where the timing would kind of like desync. You've got some monkeys that are dropping boulders down from on top that you're going to have to like let the boulder drop, and then you're going to jump over to a platform, and then keep doing that until you get to the actual climb section where the boulders are rushing at you. And they would kind of desync so that the second monkey was dropping its boulder like into the boulder that was rolling off the slope, and it was creating like a longer pause there, where if you jumped when it was finally clear that there would be another boulder like already there coming into your face. I just waited a little bit longer so that they would get back into the correct timing. They kind of did it naturally on their own, so like it wasn't a really big deal, but it was like it was a little bit weird. I don't know if it could have been helped. I don't know if that was, like I said, like a server side issue screwing around with the logic. Like sometimes with like when you've got flash counters, for example, because it's all done off of frames, and if it's losing frames, then like the timing in those counters, the timing in the timers will get thrown off. That might have been something that was going on here. It's not really big, and there really isn't anything in the level that I felt was like really unfair. I found it to be a very fair level, a little bit challenging but not overly so. I do think that most all players would probably be able to get through this, and it's just like it's really fun. It's really interesting. It's got nice bits of tension. It's got really great set pieces. I like the later on section where you're no longer carrying the water drop because the king monkey has actually stolen that bottle. And you've got like a lot of little platforming elements in there that were just like really cool and really fun to do. I think Rital just straight up knocked it out of the park with this one. This is a great level. I strongly recommend it. I got first place, but I'm going to be very surprised if this level doesn't pick up a team pick or a level of the day. I'd honestly say that I would choose this for a team pick. Like, I think it's that good. And once it gets that kind of recognition, I don't think my first place is going to last for very long, but I could be proud of it for as long as it lasts. I've gushed about this level and it totally deserves it. Just stop the video now and go out and play it because you're going to have a great time. And perfect timing because that's pretty much everything I could say. So from me, Risco, here in Tokyo, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao, monkeys!